The cold wind on Europa's surface could freeze a being solid in seconds. Dr. Kethval pulled his thick suit tighter as he walked across the icy ground. His breath made small clouds in his helmet as he looked at the readings on his scanner. Something was down there, buried deep under the ice. For 300 years, humans had been gone from the galaxy. Everyone knew the story. They were a violent species that destroyed themselves in wars. The galaxy was better without them. At least, that's what the Federation taught in schools. Kethval was different from other Zephyrians. While his people had blue skin and tall, thin bodies, he had always been curious about the old stories. He studied dead civilizations, trying to understand what made them rise and fall. Humans fascinated him more than any other extinct species. His team had been on Europa for 2 weeks now. The moon had once been a human colony, but it was abandoned long ago. They expected to find ruins and maybe some old artifacts. They did not expect to find what lay beneath the ice. Dr. Kethval, you need to see this, called out Yira, his assistant. She was pointing her scanner at a spot where the ice looked different. Thicker somehow, more solid. Kethval walked over and checked his own readings. His eyes went wide. There was a structure down there, about 50 meters below the surface. It was big, and it was still running on some kind of power. Start the drilling, he told his team, carefully. We don't know what we might find. It took them 6 hours to cut through the ice. When they finally broke through, they found themselves looking down into a long, dark tunnel. Emergency lights flickered on as their presence triggered old sensors. The tunnel led to a massive underground facility. Kethval was the first to go down. His heart was beating fast as he walked through corridors that no living being had seen for centuries. Everything was clean and preserved, like time had stopped. The walls were covered with signs in the human language called English. Emergency. Cryo storage, Yura read out loud as they walked. Authorized personnel only. They came to a huge room filled with dozens of metal containers. Each one was the size of a coffin and had frost covering its surface. Most of them were dark, their power long dead. But in the center of the room, one container still glowed with soft blue light. Kethval approached it slowly. There was a small window in the top, and when he wiped away the frost, he could see inside. A human face looked back at him, peaceful. In sleep, the being looked young, maybe 30 years old in human terms. His hair was dark, and his face was calm. By the stars, whispered Yura. It's still alive. Kethval checked the readings on the container. The life support systems were working perfectly. Somehow, this human had been sleeping for 300 years, waiting for someone to find him. There was a nameplate on the container. Captain Jake Morrison, United Earth Defense Force. Emergency Protocol 7, last line of defense. Kethval felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. Protocol 7. He had read about this in the old war records. It was humanity's final plan, used only when everything else had failed. We should report this to the Federation, Yura said. They'll want to know about this. But Kethval was already thinking. The Federation had strict rules about human artifacts. They would order the container destroyed without a second thought. This sleeping human would be killed, and the chance to learn about humanity would be lost forever. No, he said finally. We're going to wake him up. Yura stared at him. Are you insane? Humans are dangerous. That's why they're extinct. Are they? Kethval asked. Or is that just what we've been told? Look at this place. Look at how carefully they preserve themselves. Does this look like the work of mindless destroyers? It took them 3 days to move the container to their ship. The Harmony's voice. Kethval had to convince his entire team to help him. Most of them thought he was making a terrible mistake, but they trusted him enough to follow his lead. The revival process was slow and dangerous. Human biology was different from any other species in the galaxy. Their bodies were built to survive in ways that seemed impossible. They had backup systems for their backup systems, and their brains worked in patterns that made no sense to other species. HFY watched the monitors as Jake Morrison's body slowly came back to life. His heart started beating stronger. His brain waves became more active. His eyes began to move under his closed eyelids. On the third day, Jake Morrison opened his eyes. The first thing Jake saw was a blue face looking down at him. His military training kicked in immediately, and he tried to sit up fast. But his body was weak from centuries of sleep, and he could barely move. "Easy," the blue creature said in perfect English. "You're safe. My name is Dr. HFY. You've been asleep for a very long time." Jake's mind was fuzzy, but he remembered entering the cryopod. There had been explosions outside the facility, alien ships in the sky. The last desperate attempt to save humanity from an invasion that they couldn't stop. "How long?" Jake asked. His voice was rough from not being used. 300 years, HFY said gently. Jake closed his eyes. 300 years. Everyone he had ever known was dead. Earth was probably gone. He might be the last human in the entire galaxy. "What happened to my people?" he asked. HFY hesitated. "How do you tell someone that their entire species was extinct?" "The war ended," he said. "Humanity fought bravely, but in the end, they couldn't win. You may be the last of your kind." Jake felt a pain in his chest that had nothing to do with his weak body. The last human. The thought was too big to understand. "Who are you?" Jake asked, looking at the alien faces around him. "What species?" "I am Zephyrian," HFY said. "These are my research team. We found you on Europa while studying human ruins. The galaxy is at peace now. 12 species work together in the Galactic Federation." Jake tried to process this information. 12 species working together. It sounded like what humanity had always dreamed of. But if it was so perfect, why had they destroyed his people? "The Federation," Jake said slowly. "Were they part of the war?" "The Federation maintains peace," HFY said carefully. "Sometimes difficult decisions must be made for the greater good." Jake heard what the alien wasn't saying. The Federation had been involved in humanity's destruction. These people who claimed to be peaceful had helped kill his entire species. But Jake was smart enough not to show his anger. He was weak, alone, and surrounded by aliens who could kill him easily. He needed to learn more before he could do anything. "I understand," Jake said, trying to sound grateful. "Thank you for saving me." Over the following days, Jake learned about the galaxy as it existed now. The Federation was presented as a perfect society where all species lived in harmony. War was a thing of the past. Resources were shared equally. Everyone was happy, but Jake noticed things that HFY didn't mention. The way the other team members looked nervous when Jake asked certain questions. The locked doors on the ship that he wasn't allowed to enter. The communications that stopped when he walked into a room. Jake was a soldier, trained to notice details that others missed. And what he noticed told him that the Federation's peace wasn't as perfect as they claimed. As his body grew stronger, Jake began to plan. He needed to learn more about what had really happened to humanity. He needed to find out if there were other survivors. And most importantly, he needed to decide what he was going to do about it. The Federation thought they had eliminated humanity 300 years ago. They were about to learn that you can't kill an idea and the idea of human freedom was far from dead. Jake spent his days getting stronger while the alien scientists ran test after test on him. They were amazed by his body. Dr. HFY would stare at the medical readings and shake his blue head in wonder. "Your species is remarkable," HFY told him one morning. "Your body has systems we've never seen before. When one part fails, another part takes over. It's like you're built to survive anything." Jake nodded but didn't say much. He was learning to keep his thoughts to himself. Every day he felt his strength returning. Every day he learned something new about the galaxy that had replaced his world. The Federation was made up of 12 different alien species. The Zephyrians were the scientists and teachers. The Nexari were the military and police. The Volans handled trade and money. Each species had their role, and everyone stayed in their place. "It's beautiful," Yura said one day as she showed Jake pictures of Federation worlds. "No war, no fighting, no chaos. Everyone knows their purpose." Jake looked at the images of perfect cities and happy aliens. It did look peaceful, but something about it felt wrong to him. Where was the creativity? Where was the drive to be something more? "What happens if someone doesn't want to do their assigned role?" Jake asked. Yura looked confused. "Why wouldn't they want to? The Federation provides everything they need. Food, shelter, purpose. What more could anyone want?" Jake didn't answer, but he knew what was missing. Freedom, the right to choose your own path, even if you chose wrong sometimes. During his third week on the ship, something strange happened. Jake was doing the physical exercises that Kethval had given him when he felt a sharp pain in his head. For a moment, everything went dark. Then suddenly, Jake could see and hear everything differently. He could hear conversations from 3 rooms away. He could feel the vibrations of the ship's engines through his feet. His reflexes became lightning fast when Yura accidentally dropped a medical tool, and he caught it before it hit the floor. "How did you do that?" Yura asked, staring at him. Jake looked at his hands. They felt different, stronger, more precise. "I don't know," he said, but that wasn't entirely true. Deep in his memory, he remembered something about human soldiers getting special improvements before they went into cryosleep. The improvements were supposed to activate when they woke up. Jake decided not to tell the aliens about the changes. Instead, he pretended to be weaker than he really was. He let them think he was still the confused, helpless human they had found. But at night, when everyone else was sleeping, Jake explored the ship. His enhanced hearing let him know when people were coming. His improved reflexes let him move without making sound. He learned the ship's layout and found the locked rooms that Kethval didn't want him to see. In one room, he found files about human history. But these files told a very different story than what Kethval had shared with him. According to the Federation records, humans hadn't been invaded by aliens. Humans had been expanding into space when they discovered other intelligent species. But instead of joining the Federation peacefully, humans had started asking difficult questions. Why? Did some species get better planets than others? Why were certain species not allowed to develop their own technology? Why did every species have to follow Federation rules, even on their own worlds? The humans had been building something called Freedom Shields, technology that could protect a species from mental influence. The Federation had been using subtle mind control to keep their member species happy and obedient. The humans were going to share the shield technology with everyone. That's when the Federation decided humans were too dangerous to live. Jake read through battle reports and communication logs. The war hadn't been about human aggression. It had been about human refusal to be controlled. The Federation had painted humans as violent destroyers, but the real crime was that humans wouldn't bow down and accept their place in the galactic order. Jake felt anger burning in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. Getting angry wouldn't help. He needed to be smart about this. He kept reading and found something that made his heart race. The cryo facilities weren't just on Europa. There were dozens of them hidden throughout the solar system. Each one contained hundreds of humans, all waiting to be awakened. But the Federation didn't know about most of them. The facilities had been built in secret, hidden so well that even 300 years of searching hadn't found them all. Jake wasn't the last human after all. He was just the first to wake up. The next morning, Jake acted normal during his tests with Kethval, but he was planning The ship had a communication system that could reach anywhere in the solar system. If he could access it, he could send wake-up signals to the other cryo facilities. The problem was security. The communication system was locked behind codes that Jake didn't have. He would need to get HFY to open it for him, or find another. Way in, Jake's chance came during his 4th week on the ship. HFY was showing him how Federation ships worked, proud to share his advanced technology with the primitive human. "This is our quantum communication array," HFY explained. "It can send messages instantly across the galaxy. Much better than the slow radio signals your people used." Jake pretended to be impressed. "Could it reach Earth's solar system from here?" "Of course," HFY said. "We could send a message to any Federation outpost in your old system right now." "That's amazing," Jake said. "Could you show me how it works?" HFY was happy to demonstrate. He entered his access codes and brought up the communication interface. Jake watched carefully, his enhanced vision letting him see exactly which keys HFY pressed. That night, Jake snuck back to the communication room. His fingers moved quickly over the controls, entering HFY's codes. The system opened for him, and Jake began composing a very special message. It wasn't a normal communication. It was an activation code, designed to wake up the automated systems in the hidden cryo facilities. Jake had found the codes in his own memory, buried deep in his military training. He sent the signal to coordinates throughout the solar system: Mars, the asteroid belt, the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Everywhere that humans had built secret shelters for their survival. The signals would take time to reach their destinations, but when they did, the revival process would begin automatically. Hundreds of humans would start waking up, just like Jake had. But Jake made a mistake. The quantum communication system automatically logged all messages. When HFY checked the logs the next morning, he saw what Jake had done. "What is this?" HFY demanded, confronting Jake in the medical bay. "These coordinates, this code, what did you send?" Jake could see the fear in the alien's eyes. HFY was beginning to understand what he had unleashed. "I sent a message home," Jake said calmly, "to let my people know I'm alive." "What people?" HFY asked. "You're the only human left." Jake smiled for the first time since waking up. "No, I'm not. And now they're waking up too." HFY's hands shook as he reached for the ship's emergency communicator. He needed to contact the Federation to warn them that humanity was returning. But Jake was ready for this. His enhanced reflexes let him move faster than HFY could react. Jake grabbed the communicator and crushed it in his hands. The metal bent like soft clay under his improved strength. "I'm sorry," Jake said. He meant it. "You saved my life, and I'm grateful. But you represent everything that destroyed my species. I can't let you stop what's about to happen." Jake moved through the ship, disabling communication systems and locking down the other crew members. He didn't hurt anyone. That wasn't the human way, despite what the Federation believed. But he couldn't let them interfere with humanity's return. As Jake took control of the ship, he felt something he hadn't experienced since waking up: hope. Across the solar system, his people were stirring from their long sleep. The Federation thought they had won the war 300 years ago. They were about to learn that humans don't stay defeated. They adapt, they survive, and they come back stronger than before. The galaxy was about to remember why humanity had been considered so dangerous in the first place. Jake set course for Earth's solar system. It was time to go home and wake up the rest of his species. The Federation's perfect peace was about to meet humanity's unstoppable drive for freedom. Jake's body continued to change as he flew the stolen Federation ship toward Earth's solar system. Every day he felt stronger, faster, smarter. The implants in his brain were connecting with systems he didn't even know he had. Sometimes he would look at the ship's controls and suddenly understand how they worked. Even though no one had taught him. Dr. Kethville sat in the locked medical bay, staring at Jake through the transparent wall. The alien looked afraid and confused. "What are you becoming?" Kethville asked one day when Jake brought him food. "I'm becoming what I was always meant to be," Jake replied. "A guardian of human freedom." The truth was, Jake wasn't entirely sure what was happening to him either. The military enhancements were more advanced than anything he remembered from his time. It was like his body was rebuilding itself into something better, something designed for the challenges ahead. As they traveled, Jake spent his time learning everything he could about the Federation. He accessed their databases, studied their military tactics, and mapped their political structure. What he found made him both angry and hopeful. The Federation wasn't as united as they pretended to be. Several member species had tried to leave over the years, but they had been convinced to stay through economic pressure and subtle threats. The Karathi had developed new art forms that the Federation called disruptive to social harmony. The Tillani had started asking why they couldn't explore beyond Federation space. Each time, the Federation had found ways to bring the rebellious species back in line. They never used direct force that would damage their image as peaceful leaders. Instead, they used trade restrictions, diplomatic isolation, and psychological manipulation. Jake realized that humanity's return could do more than just bring his species back from extinction. It could be the spark that freed the entire galaxy from Federation control. When Jake's activation signals reached the hidden cryo facilities, the response was immediate. Automated systems that had waited 3 centuries began warming up. Emergency. Power cells that should have died long ago somehow still functioned. Human engineering had built these shelters to last, and they had done their job perfectly. The first facility to fully activate was on Mars. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan woke up in an underground complex that had once been a mining operation. Like Jake, she was confused and weak at first. But also like Jake, her military enhancements began working as soon as she was conscious. Kate found herself alone in a facility designed for 200 people, but most of the other cryopods had failed over the centuries. Only 37 humans had survived the long sleep. But that was enough to start with. Pete Rodriguez woke up in the asteroid belt, in a facility built inside a hollowed-out rock. He was an engineer, and his first thought was to check the systems that had kept them alive. What he found amazed him. The facility wasn't just a shelter. It was a complete manufacturing center, with machines that could build everything from computer chips to spacecraft. Dr. Lisa Grant opened her eyes on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Her facility was different from the others. It was a research station that had been studying ways to make humans adapt to different environments. The computers were still running experiments that had been started 300 years ago. Each group of awakened humans found the same thing. Their facilities were more than just hiding places. They were the foundation for humanity's return to the galaxy. The people who had built them had planned for this day when their descendants would need to rebuild human civilization from nothing. Jake felt the moment when the first humans began to wake up. His enhanced nervous system somehow connected him to others of his species across the solar system. He could sense Kate's determination on Mars, Pete's excitement in the asteroid belt, and Lisa's curiosity on Titan. But Jake also sensed something else. Fear. The Federation had detected the activation signals from the cryo facilities. They knew that humanity was returning, and they were mobilizing to stop it. Admiral Vex Tar of the Nexari Collective was the first to respond. The Nexari were the Federation's military arm, cold and calculating beings who viewed war as a mathematical problem to be solved. Vextar had studied the old human war records and believed he understood how to defeat them. Humans are emotional and unpredictable, Vextar told his fleet commanders as they prepared to leave for Earth's solar system. But they are also primitive. Their technology is 300 years out of date. We will overwhelm them with superior, Numbers and firepower. Jake intercepted the Federation's military communications as their fleet assembled. 50 ships, all state-of-the-art, with weapons that could destroy planets. Against them, humanity had a few dozen people in old facilities with outdated equipment. Any sane species would surrender immediately. But humans had never been accused of being entirely sane. Jake sent messages to the other facilities, sharing everything he had learned about the Federation. Kate responded first, her signal coming from Mars with military precision. Understood. Beginning tactical assessment of available resources. Recommend immediate coordination of defense efforts. Pete's message was more excited. You won't believe what these facilities can build. Give me a week and I'll have surprises for our visitors. Lisa's response was the most intriguing. The research here suggests possibilities we never explored before. Humanity may be more adaptable than we ever realized. As the Federation fleet approached Earth's solar system, Jake made a decision that would have surprised his old commanders. Instead of trying to fight the alien ships directly, he was going to do something that no Federation species had ever attempted. Jake was going to turn their own systems against them. The Federation ships were marvels of technology, but they were designed by committee. Multiple species had contributed to their design, each adding their own requirements and safety protocols. The result was ships that were powerful but also predictable. More importantly, they were all networked together. The Federation believed that constant communication and coordination made their fleets unstoppable. They had never considered that an enemy might use that connection as a weapon. Jake began working on a computer virus unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It wasn't just a program. It was a reflection of human thinking, chaotic and creative, in ways that alien minds couldn't predict. While Jake worked on his cyber weapon, the other humans prepared their own surprises. Kate organized the survivors on Mars into a guerrilla force, using the planet's cave systems and dust storms to hide their movements. Pete began converting asteroid mining equipment into weapons that could punch through Federation shields. Lisa worked on something she called adaptive protocols that would help humans survive in environments where other species would die. The Federation fleet arrived in Earth's system expecting to find desperate refugees hiding in ancient shelters. Instead, they found humans who had spent 300 years in perfect preservation, their bodies enhanced beyond anything the Federation had records of, and their minds freed from the limitations that peaceful species accepted. Admiral Vextar ordered his ships to take defensive positions around Earth. He planned to negotiate with the humans first, offering them a chance to surrender peacefully. If they refused, he would demonstrate Federation superiority by destroying one of their facilities as an example. Jake watched the alien fleet deploy and smiled. Vextar was thinking like a Federation commander, following procedures that assumed his enemies would also follow rules. But humans had never been good at following rules they didn't agree with. All stations, Jake broadcast to the hidden facilities. This is Jake Morrison. The Federation thinks they're hunting us. Time to show them what it feels like to be prey. The hunt was about to begin, but the Federation was about to learn that they weren't the hunters in this situation. They were about to face an enemy that had spent 3 centuries evolving in the dark, waiting for the chance to show the galaxy what human determination could accomplish. Jake activated his virus and sent it into the Federation's communication network. At the same time, Kate's teams began hitting Federation supply lines. Pete's converted weapons started targeting ships that thought they were safe behind their shields. And Lisa's research began producing results that would change what it meant to be human. The Federation had come to finish what they started 300 years ago. Instead, they were about to discover that some things, once awakened, could never be put back to sleep. The Federation fleet hung in space around Earth like a metal cloud, 50 ships waiting for Admiral Vextar as orders. The Nexuri commander studied his tactical displays with cold satisfaction. His sensors showed small energy signatures from these human facilities, but nothing that looked like serious military preparation. "Begin scanning for weapons and defensive systems," Vextar ordered his bridge crew. "I want to know exactly what these primitives think they can do against us." What the Federation scanners couldn't detect was the network of communication Jake had established between the human facilities. The signals were buried in cosmic background radiation, invisible to alien sensors that weren't designed to look. For human creativity, Kate Sullivan crouched in a cave on Mars, watching Federation probe ships scan the surface above her. 36 other humans waited with her in the darkness, all of them enhanced soldiers who had been sleeping for 3 centuries. Their bodies were stronger now, their minds sharper, their reflexes faster than any human in history. "They're looking for traditional military installations," Kate whispered into her communicator. "They have no idea what they're really facing." On the surface, Pete Rodriguez was putting the finishing touches on his surprise for the Federation fleet. The asteroid mining facility had been converted into something that looked harmless from space, just another piece of floating rock. But inside, Pete had built weapons that used principles the Federation had never encountered. "Mining charges are designed to crack asteroids apart," Pete explained to his team of 12 engineers. "I've just made them a little more focused. These won't just crack rocks. They'll punch holes through anything the Federation puts in front of us." Dr. Lisa Grant worked in her laboratory on Titan, surrounded by research that had been running for 300 years. The automated systems had continued her experiments while she slept, testing thousands of genetic modifications and biological enhancements. What they had discovered changed everything she thought she knew about human potential. "We're not the same species that went into cryosleep," Lisa told her small team of scientists. "The enhancement process has been more successful than anyone imagined. We're faster, stronger, smarter, and more adaptable than baseline humans ever were." Jake coordinated everything from his stolen Federation ship, using the alien vessel's own systems to spy on their fleet. His virus had infected their communication network without them realizing it, giving him access to their plans and tactical discussions. He listened as Admiral Vextar explained his strategy to his commanders. "Humans are known for emotional decision-making and reckless behavior. They will likely attempt a direct assault on our largest ships, trying to achieve victory through courage rather than tactics. We will be ready for their predictable attack patterns." Jake almost laughed. The Federation had spent 300 years studying old human battle records, but those records only showed how humans fought when they followed military rules. The humans waking up now had no interest in fighting fair. The first strike came from an unexpected direction. 3 Federation supply ships were traveling between Earth and Mars when they suddenly lost all power. Their engines died, their weapons went offline, and their life support began failing. The crews barely had time to send distress signals before their ships went dark. Admiral Vextar stared at his tactical display in confusion. "What happened to those ships?" "I'm seeing no weapons fire, no explosions, no external damage." His technical officer checked the sensor readings 3 times before answering. "Sir, it appears their computer systems simply shut down." All of them simultaneously. Jake's virus had worked better than he hoped. It didn't just attack Federation computers. It learned from them, growing smarter with each system it infected. The virus was spreading through the fleet's network like a disease, but instead of destroying data, it was gathering information and waiting for Jake's command, while the Federation tried to figure out what had happened to their supply ships. Kate's team struck at their ground installations on Earth. The Federation had established monitoring stations on the planet's surface to coordinate their fleet operations. Kate's enhanced soldiers moved through the ruins of human cities like ghosts, appearing from nowhere to disable the alien equipment. The Federation soldiers guarding the installations never saw the attacks coming. Kate's people moved too fast and struck too precisely. One moment the monitoring stations were operational, the next they were smoking piles of scrap metal. "We're getting reports of systematic attacks on our ground assets," Vextar's communications officer reported. "At least 6 installations have been destroyed in the past hour." "By what force?" Vextar demanded. "Our sensors show no large human military units. The attacks appear to be carried out by very small teams, sir. Maybe 3 or 4 individuals each time." Vextar couldn't believe what he was hearing. Small teams of humans were outfighting trained Federation soldiers. It was impossible according to everything the Federation knew about human military capabilities. Pete Rodriguez launched his own attack from the asteroid belt. His converted mining charges looked like ordinary space debris on Federation sensors until they activated their guidance systems and accelerated toward their targets. By the time the Federation ships detected the incoming projectiles, it was too late to stop them. The mining charges had been designed to crack apart asteroids that were harder than any ship armor. When they hit Federation vessels, they punched clean through shields that were supposed to stop planet-killing weapons. 3 more ships went dark, their hulls breached in multiple places. "How are they penetrating our shields?" Vextar S. weapons officer asked in disbelief. "Those projectiles shouldn't have enough power to get through our defenses. They're not using conventional weapons," Jake whispered to himself as he watched the Federation's confusion. "They're using human ingenuity." Dr. Lisa Grant's contribution came next, and it was the most disturbing development from the Federation's perspective. A team of Federation scientists had been studying the remains of an old human research station when they suddenly stopped responding to communications. When a rescue ship investigated, they found the Federation team alive but changed. The aliens were still themselves, but they were different, stronger, faster, more alert. When questioned, they insisted they felt better than ever before. They had been exposed to some kind of biological agent that was improving their physical capabilities. "It's spreading," Lisa explained to Jake during their secure communication. "The enhancement process isn't limited to humans. We can share it with other species. The Federation's people are going to start changing whether they want to or not." This news terrified Admiral Vextar more than the military attacks. The Federation's entire system was based on different species staying in their assigned roles. If humans could change other species, make them stronger and more independent, the carefully maintained social order would collapse. "Issue immediate quarantine protocols," Vextar ordered. "No one approaches any human facility without full protective equipment, and prepare the planet-killer weapons. We may need to sterilize this entire system." But Jake was ready for this escalation. His virus had been learning the Federation systems for hours now, and it had found something very important. The Federation ships weren't just connected to each other. They were connected to the central command network that controlled all Federation military operations across the galaxy. Jake activated the final phase of his cyber attack. Instead of just disabling Federation ships, his virus began sending false orders throughout their military network. Ships across the galaxy received commands to stand down, return to base, or investigate false emergencies in distant systems. The Federation's perfect coordination became chaos as their own communication system turned against them. Commanders couldn't tell which orders were real and which were generated by Jake's virus. Their fleet organization fell apart as ships scattered to respond to threats that didn't exist. Admiral Vextar watched his tactical display dissolve into confusion. Half his ships were reporting impossible orders from Fleet Command. The other half couldn't communicate with their home bases. And all around him, humans were striking at his forces with weapons and tactics that defied everything the Federation thought they knew about warfare. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly. "We're receiving a transmission from the human who calls himself Jake Morrison. He wants to talk." Vextar straightened in his command chair. Maybe the human commander was ready to discuss surrender. "Terms, put him through." Jake's face appeared on the main screen, and Vextar was surprised by what he saw. The human didn't look desperate or afraid. He looked confident, almost amused. "Admiral Vextar," Jake said calmly, "I think it's time we had a conversation about the future of this galaxy. Your fleet is welcome to stay and watch, but the Federation's control over other species ends today." Vextar stared at the human who had just dismantled his entire military operation without firing a single conventional shot. For the first time in his long career, the Nexari admiral realized he might be looking at something the Federation couldn't control or defeat: the human. Tide was rising, and it was going to wash away everything the Federation had built. Admiral Vextar stared at Jake Morrison's face on his command screen. The human looked calm, almost friendly, as if he hadn't just destroyed half the Federation fleet without firing a single traditional weapon. "What do you want?" Vextar asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "I want what my people have always wanted," Jake replied. "The right to exist without asking permission. The right to help other species find their own freedom. And the right to explore this galaxy without being told where we can and cannot go." "Your species was eliminated because you were dangerous," Vextar said. "You prove that danger with your actions today." Jake smiled, and something in that expression made Vextar's cold blood run even colder. "We haven't even started to show you dangerous yet, Admiral. What you've seen today is just us saying hello." Across the galaxy, Jake's words were proving true. The signals he had sent months ago hadn't just reached the hidden facilities in Earth's solar system. They had reached something much more important: the sleeper ships that had been drifting in deep space for centuries. Captain Maria Santos woke up on a ship that had been traveling between stars for 300 years. Her crew of 200 humans had been in cryosleep since 2089, their automated ship searching for a new home far from the war that was destroying Earth. The ship's computers had been listening to galactic communications for decades, learning about the Federation and their peaceful rule. When Jake's signal reached them, it carried more than just activation codes. It carried the truth about what had happened to humanity and what was happening now. Maria looked at her ship's navigation display and smiled. They were only 6 months away from a Federation world called Kelros Prime, home to the Tillany species that had been asking uncomfortable questions about Federation control. "Wake the crew," Maria ordered her ship's computer. "It's time to introduce ourselves to our new neighbors." Similar scenes played out on 12 other sleeper ships scattered across Federation space. Humans were appearing in star systems where they had supposedly never existed, offering friendship and support to species that had been slowly losing their independence too. Federation guidance. The Tillany were the first to respond to human contact. They had been developing new forms of art and music that the Federation claimed were disruptive to social harmony. When Maria's ship arrived at Kelros Prime, the Tillany welcomed them with celebrations that had been banned for 50 years. "We thought we were alone," Tillany leader Yexara told Maria as they met in the capital city. "We thought everyone accepted Federation control because it was the only way to live." "There's always another way," Maria replied. "You just have to be willing to take risks to find it." The Karathi were next. Their homeworld had been under Federation protection for 2 centuries, their natural curiosity slowly crushed by rules that limited their exploration and research. When humans arrived offering technology and knowledge without conditions, the Karathi began remembering what it felt like to discover new things. Dr. Lisa Grant's biological enhancements were spreading faster than the Federation could contain them. The improvements weren't forced on anyone. They were offered freely to any species that wanted to become stronger, faster, and more capable of independent survival. But the enhancements did more than just improve physical abilities. They seemed to strengthen something deeper, the desire for freedom that the Federation had been suppressing for centuries. Admiral Vextar watched his carefully ordered galaxy falling apart. Reports flooded in from across Federation space. Member species were questioning orders they had followed without thought for generations. Trade agreements were being challenged. Entire worlds were declaring their independence from Federation. "Guidance, sir," his communications officer reported. "We're receiving surrender requests from 3 more ships in our fleet. Their crews say they don't want to fight humans anymore." Vextar couldn't understand it. Federation military conditioning was supposed to be unbreakable. His soldiers were trained from birth to follow orders and maintain galactic peace. But somehow, just being near humans was changing them. The truth was simpler than Vextar realized. The Federation had kept peace by making their people forget what it felt like to choose their own path. Humans reminded other species that choice was possible, and once that memory awakened, it couldn't be put back to sleep. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his stolen Federation ship, watching as more and more alien vessels stopped following their admiral's orders. Some ships were leaving the fleet entirely, their crews refusing to participate in what they now saw as an attempt to destroy freedom itself. "The Federation Council is demanding an immediate report," Vextar's aide informed him. "They want to know why we haven't eliminated the human threat." Vextar looked at his tactical display. Half his fleet was gone, either disabled by human attacks or abandoned by crews who no longer believed in their mission. The humans had fewer than 1,000 active people in the entire solar system, but they had somehow turned his overwhelming advantage into a complete disaster. "Tell the Council," Vextar said quietly, "that we may have made a mistake 300 years ago." Dr. Kethvale, still locked in the medical bay of Jake's ship, watched the transformation happening around him. The Zephyrian scientist had spent his life believing in Federation, peace, and order. But seeing Jake Morrison and his people in action had changed everything he thought he knew about civilization. "May I speak with you?" Kethvale asked when Jake came to check on him. Jake opened the medical bay door. He could have killed the alien scientist at any time, but that wasn't the human way. "What's on your mind, Doctor?" "I need to understand," Kethvale said. "Your people could have destroyed our fleet completely. You have weapons we can't defend against, and tactics we can't predict, but you're not trying to conquer us." "Why?" Jake sat down across from the blue-skinned alien. "Because conquest isn't freedom, Doctor. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to live in it without asking permission." "But what about order?" Kethvale asked. "What about peace?" "The Federation has prevented wars for centuries. Has it?" Jake asked. "Or has it just prevented people from fighting for things worth fighting for? You've had peace because you've made everyone afraid to want anything better." Kethvale thought about this. He remembered stories from his grandfather about the time before the Federation, when Zephyrians explored unknown regions of space and made discoveries that amazed the galaxy. When had his people stopped reaching for the stars and started being content with the safety of Federation guidance? "What happens now?" Kethvale asked. Jake looked out at the stars, where human ships were beginning to emerge from hiding places throughout the solar system. Pete Rodriguez had converted the entire asteroid belt into a shipyard that could build vessels, using designs 3 centuries more advanced than anything the Federation had seen. "Now we offer every species in the galaxy the same choice we're offering. You," Jake said, "join us as equals and help us explore what's beyond Federation space. Or stay with the Federation and accept their limits. But the choice will be theirs to make, not something decided for them by people who think they know better." Kate Sullivan's voice came through Jake's communicator. "Jake, we're getting signals from the outer rim." 23 more sleeper ships have activated. And we're receiving messages from 17 different species asking about asylum from Federation control. Jake smiled. The awakening was spreading faster than anyone had imagined. Humans weren't just surviving their intended extinction. They were becoming the catalyst for the greatest change the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Vextar, Jake said, opening a communication channel to the Federation flagship. Your fleet is welcome to stay and observe, but your authority in this system is over. Earth belongs to humanity again, and any species that wants freedom is welcome to join us. Vextar's response came after a long pause. The Federation will not allow this rebellion to spread. The Federation doesn't get to allow or disallow anything anymore, Jake replied. The galaxy is waking up, Admiral. And once people remember what freedom feels like, they never go back to sleep. As Jake spoke, signals from human facilities throughout the galaxy were reaching species that had forgotten they once had dreams, bigger than Federation approval. The unstoppable force wasn't human technology or military might. It was the simple idea that intelligent beings should be free to choose their own destiny. The Federation had spent 3 centuries building a perfect system of control. Humanity had returned to offer something better, a galaxy where every species could reach for the stars without asking permission from anyone. And once that offer was made, it could never be taken back.